Hey folks, welcome to the lab. We're just here to do a lantern basics for people that are new to owning a lantern or have had a lantern around and have been afraid to use it because they don't know how to use it. So today is going to be changing a wick, because a lot of times people will either burn them wrong and they burn away really quick, or they turn the knob the wrong way and the wick falls down inside the tank. So I'm going to show you real quick how to change out a wick. And I'm using a DIETZ Little Wizard because that's probably the most popular lantern out there. There's a million of them. All right, so let's get started. What do you say? So the first thing we'll do is expose the burner so we can get the burner out and put a new wick in. And the first thing to do to expose that burner is to tilt back the glass globe. And I'll show you how to do that, because there's some people get confused by how to do that correctly. And we'll do that right now. Okay, so on the top of your lantern, you got this little loop up here. This is not for hanging or carrying it around. This is basically a thumb loop for raising the chimney here. This gets very hot, by the way, when you fire it up. So what you do is you use your handle, or your bail, as it's called, and you hold that up top like this, and you hold this up on top with your hand like this, and with your thumb, you grab this. I got a huge thumb, so I got to help out a little bit. So you kind of use that, and then you close your hand, and it raises that up. And I'll show you what that does down below. So what happens when you put your thumb in there and you raise that up, it raises the chimney up and it frees up the globe for you to get it out. But you want to make sure your little raising mechanism here, or your raising lever, is up. Because if it's down, then you're not going to be able to get this out. So make sure that's up and sitting there. So turn that sideways, and you always tilt it away from the filter cap, the direction away from the filter cap. And it comes right out. So now your glass globe is out. Now it frees you up to remove the burner and things, and let's do that. Now this little bit here, this is your burner. This all gets very hot, by the way. This is your this is the dome that goes over the burner. So here's your burner, and we want to get that out. And here on a DIETZ Little Wizard, it's got little wing tabs on each side here that are held in with tabs that are connected to the lantern. So you want to get your little adjustment handle here. Turn that to the right and pop, and you can see that. See the little tab goes underneath there? And then that frees up your burner to pull it out. So here is your burner. And this is what we're going to put the wick in. Okay, so here we have a wick. For this particular DIETZ model, and it's a 3/4 inch wick. You can easily go online. DIETZ, I say easily with DIETZ because they're so widely popular. They were the biggest on the planet for a long time. You just go on there and Google in DIETZ lantern wick size, and then you can match it up. And like for instance, here's a 1-inch wick for a very large lantern. Now that will not fit in there. So this, and they're basically 6 or 8 inches long when they're new, and this is actually all I have left of this 3/4 inch wick, which is what this particular DIETZ model takes. So it's good to know your burner, because this is how wicks get lost. So people turn them back and forth, and you can see there's little gears in there that pull the fabric up through to come out the top. So if you keep forgetting when you're turning on or off your lantern and you go down too much it's going to fall out and it's going to fall into your tank. So, so you can see by the teeth what direction they go when you turn it. So you can see this direction. And you can see what side this rod goes through. And that's the side that the gears are on, so you know how the rotation works. So I'm going to put the wick in here. It's a tight fit. May take you a couple times. But as you can see by where the gear is on that side, that we know that turning it this direction is going to grab it and pull it. Just like that. And that's how people lose their wicks, because they're turning in the wrong way, not thinking. And there you have it. So, trimming is a whole other thing. I like to make sure when I put a new wick in, because sometimes they get a little frayed like this, because it is just it's kind of a linen wick here. So I like to go across. Nice clean cut when I start. Some people like to round them off on top, because sometimes you'll get spikes of flame, and that makes carbon and things. That's a whole other video, but there, that's a good height there. And a very important thing too, so we're going to put this back in. So you want to take your finger and feed that down in there. If you feel it binding up like a hand, like a fisted hand, you know, try to straighten out a little bit so it lays down in the tank and doesn't stay all fisted up like that. Okay, so remember which way this turned to get it out. Boop, to the right, and now to the left. Click, and it clicks in place. And there you have it. So when you put a fresh wick in your burner and into your tank, it's a new wick, and there's kerosene in here, you want to wait a good while, maybe a half an hour, for this wick to soak up kerosene to the top here. Because what's going to happen is you light a dry wick, it's just going to cause a bunch of black carbon and mess up your glass and smell up your house if you're doing it inside. And you don't want that. You want to make sure that the whole wick is soaked with kerosene. Now, where I live in New York, they dye the kerosene red, so you can decipher it from other fuels. And I just keep an eye on it for it to kind of take on like a pinkish hue, kind of a pinkish color. That way I know that the wick is full of kerosene, so I can light it. This has no kerosene in it. This is on display here with me. And so now we can reverse this other process of putting the globe and everything back in. Okay, so now we reverse the process. You got your globe, and maybe while you have it out, if it's all dirty and crusty with carbon and things, go ahead and wash it off and dry it real good before you put it back in here. But that's the types of globes are a whole other episode. So, but this is so we're in there, we're in, and of course you want to go up top here and put your thumb in the thumb hole, raise that up again, and that pops right back in. Then that plops right back down on top of your glass. There you have it. And then we'll go on to lighting the wick. Like I said, I'm not going to light this, but I'll show you how. All right, so here we are. So this lever here is your lift lever to raise this whole shindig up here. So what you've done is you've raised it up, exposing your burner and your wick, which is right there. See that right there? So what you do is you get your, I wouldn't suggest this with a Zippo or a Bic unless it's one of the longer neck Bics, or one of the, grill starters with the longer one, or a wooden match like this. So you take your wooden match, you go in there, and then you want to get this down as quick as you can. And so raise that down, and then you can see, well, you can't really see because this is a red globe, but you can you adjust your wick, and hey, and you're good to go. So there's a bunch of other videos we can do on wick trimming and wick height and flame shape and stuff that you want for the best. And the best thing I could tell you real quick is when you're adjusting this, it's not so much the higher the better of the flame or the bigger the flame. Well, technically it is, but it's not when it comes to a lantern. If your flame is too big, it's going to smoke. And you don't want it to smoke because that's inefficient, and that gets carbon all over your glass and all up and through your lantern. And if you're indoor or something like that, it's going to collect on your walls. You don't want that to happen, and it smells bad if your air and fuel and wick mixture is all weird. So until you kind of figure that out, you just kind of sit there, especially after it heats up a little bit. So when the glass heats up, the metal heats up, the flame's gonna start getting larger because it's running better and it's got its air circulating. So you want to keep an eye on this for first 10 minutes, and then you can adjust it to the height that's right. And all you have to do is watch the chimney at the top. Watch up here. There'll be smoke coming out here. Smelly smoke will be coming out. And even black smoke. If it's black smoke, then you really have your wick too high, or there is no kerosene on your wick and it's just burning fabric. It's just a fire is what it is. So there you go, folks. That's just the very basic function of your lantern. So that's all. That's all for replacing wick in your lantern. Happy camping, and this is also important for power outages. So if you have one of these around the house, you want to make sure that your rescue lantern, it's good to have one around. Believe me. I mean, even though we're in the age of these giant batteries and things like that, always good to have one of these around. Ambient firelight is pretty cool, pretty relaxing. So you have one of these around, make sure you got a wick in there and you got it to good height. You got a little container of, kerosene or something in the garage so you know it's there. And you're good to go. All right, folks, thanks so much for stopping by. And as usual, don't you go change.